Arcane Season 2. A little bit divisive, huh? There have been quite a few complaints about the pacing of Season 2. Some people feel it was rushed, but I think a lot of the commentary about Season 2 and about the pacing kind of miss the point or blow things out of proportion. I know, that's a very bold statement to come out with right off the bat, but I promise I will explain myself. And hey, if you disagree, let me know in the comments, but only after you've heard me. But before I dive into why I think Arcane Season 2 is a lot better than what a lot of people have been giving it credit for, I want to talk about my own personal experience with discovering Arcane. I love this show. Season 1 of Arcane dropped in November of 2021, but I didn't watch it until January of 2022. Why? I just didn't have the time or the desire to see it. I hadn't really heard about it either. I was kind of blindsided a little bit by it, which is kind of hilarious because I've been a fan of League of Legends for a while now. I've played Wild Rift, Teamfight Tactics, Legends of Runeterra, all of it except for Valorant, but that's a different world, different kind of game, so like not really valid here. But what keeps me coming back and what I'm really a fan of is the lore. The lore of the world is called Runeterra. The League of Legends world is called Runeterra. The lore of Runeterra is insane. Riot's world building is so intricate and rich. They even have 3 official books exploring it. There's Realms of Runeterra right there. It's a world building like masterpiece. It explores all of the continents, all of the countries, the cultures, and it has wonderful, beautiful concept art. There is Garen First Shield. It's essentially a short story, but it's pacing and character development is really well done. And then there's Ruination, which I haven't read yet, but I've heard is just also amazing for the world building and really well done. And I know that Ambessa is getting her own book. I believe it's coming out in January, so I'm very curious about that one. And I have a feeling it's going to be just as spectacular as the other ones. There's also the website. I don't remember the website, but there's a website that has all of like the character bios and short stories and everything. I'll put it here because I don't remember. I know it's something super simple, but I cannot for the life of me remember it right now. There's also this amazing YouTuber named Necrit. He dives so deep into the lore and into the theories and everything. He also has videos with the co-creator of Arcane and deep diving into the episodes of Arcane and how they connect with like the rest of the lore and the world and everything, which is really interesting. I'll link his channel below. And again, he's just a storytelling genius. He really dives into it, helps with the cinematics and everything. He really just helps flesh out the world and helps you understand like what exactly is going on, because this world is so vast and there is so much going on. And also, I main Jinx in League, so I was very invested in this show. When I finally watched Arcane, I absolutely fell in love. I watched the first season at least a dozen times. I devoured every deep dive, every analysis I could find. My Spotify Wrapped that year, it was almost exclusively the Arcane score and soundtrack. I was in the top 0.05% of Arcane listeners. Obsessed doesn't even begin to cover how much I love this show. I waited 3 years for Arcane Season 2 and I didn't even know because I hadn't like paid attention to the news, but it's this series finale? Excusez-moi? What are you talking about? Come on. No, there's so much more. And don't get me wrong, I know that the reason why it's a series finale is because they have so many other stories. There are so many other characters and things to tell, but I just don't want to let go of Zaun and Piltover because I have such a soft spot. The only way I will ever get over it, and I know it's not going to happen, but the next series is in Bilgewater because that's my favorite place in Runeterra, but I know that's not going to happen because they're obviously going to go to Noxus. I hope we get to see Swain, and I hope we get to see the invasion of Ionia. Spoiler alert, but I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, so when season 2 dropped, the general consensus was confusion. People criticized the pacing, the 9 episode structure, and the decision to make this the finale. But here's the thing. A little bit of context to defend before I dive into all of the details. Christian Link, the showrunner, said that they face significant budget and time constraints. They also took a lot of creative risks. They wanted to experiment with new storytelling structures. And honestly, I really, really respect that, despite the fact that there's a budget and time constraint. And the fact that they did have a season that worked so excellently and they could have just stuck with that same exact formula. I respect the fact that they were willing to try something new. Even if it didn't pay off, their willingness to try new things is admirable and commendable. And I watched season 2 and then rewatched it, and then I took some time to let it all sink in. I listened to other creators like Friendly Space Ninja and of course Necrit, and I listened to what their opinions were and their critiques and their positives about the show, and I just came to my own conclusion that I love season 2. Sure, it's flawed, but I still think in total with season 1, it's almost still a nearly perfect show. The characters, the world building, the storytelling, they make sense. Even when the pacing is a little bit rushed, the narrative stays grounded. Let's break down the story of Arcane. So as a reminder, with season 1 of Arcane, we are introduced to Vi and Powder. They are recently orphaned and wandering a battleground that is the bridge between Zahn and Piltover, and they are taken in by Vander. Flash forward, and Vi and Powder, along with some friends, decide to host a heist in Piltover, and it results in a massive explosion that draws way too much attention to Zahn and starts a domino effect of events. Silco, who was a friend of Vander before they had a falling out, takes advantage of this, and he gets enforcers in his pocket and attempts to get Vander out of the way. Powder tries to help, but this causes an explosion that not only kills their friends, but severely injures Vander and Vi, and it fractures her relationship with her sister, and Vi is unable to resolve it before she is captured by an enforcer, and Powder is taken in by Silco and raised to be an assassin. Jayce and Viktor develop Hex Tech, a blend of magic and technology that will help push Piltover into a more advanced future. At the same time, Shimmer, the drug that Silco makes and made or whatever and pushes out, well, he didn't make it, Singe technically made it, but you get my drift. It's polluting the streets, and Silco uses it as a weapon to fight back against Piltover, to defend his drugstores, and all the things. Caitlyn gets involved as she starts to investigate into Shimmer and the subsequent violent explosions that are caused by Jinx defending Shimmer and having a little bit of a mental breakdown, and this leads her to Vi, who she inevitably lets out of prison. Vi discovers that the notorious Jinx is actually her sister Powder, and she fights to bring awareness to Silco's evil nature, with the council while also trying to save her sister. Viktor continues to get sick and uses Hex Tech to try and heal himself, and eventually using Shimmer to help with the process, trying to find a way to heal his body and terminal illness. Jayce becomes a very active political person. He starts a relationship with Mel and even proposes letting Silco have his desires, which is having the nation of Zahn. But this happens a little too late, because as this is all happening, Jinx has kidnapped Caitlyn, Vi, and Silco, and has a breakdown that results in her accidentally killing Silco. She embraces her Jinx persona and fires a rocket at the council, just as they approve Zahn's independence. Season 1 is pretty intense and a lot happens in it. Alright, so season 2 starts off right where season 1 ended. It is in the aftermath of the explosion. Jayce and Mel are fine, which is a little odd, but the other council members definitely are not. There are some that are severely wounded and some that are dead. And because Viktor was also there, he is also severely wounded. So as everyone comes to terms with the fact that there was an explosion and one of the casualties was Caitlyn's mother, Jayce takes Viktor and runs to their lab where the hex core is and places the hex core on Viktor's body to try and heal him. Once Caitlyn discovers about her mother, she falls into a deep depression, and Mel's mother, Ambessa, takes full advantage of this and starts to manipulate Caitlyn into someone that she wants and someone that can benefit her goals and her motivations. This causes Caitlyn to really embrace the hatred and anger within her. She arms herself and other enforcers, including Vi, because Vi is now an enforcer, with hex tech weapons to go into Zaun and forcibly retrieve Jinx. The Chem Barons are fighting for power with Silco's death, ignoring Sevika's warnings that they need to be united in this lovely time. And Jinx escapes from Caitlyn and the other enforcers, finding and rescuing a girl named Isha in the process while killing a Chem Baron. Viktor, who has been in a coma since the attack, wakes up and becomes severely angry at Jayce for not following through on his promise to destroy the hex core and using the hex core to heal him, and so Viktor leaves and ends their partnership. And I've heard people say that this scene is a little quick, and I do agree. It's a little fast. Like, Viktor wakes up and is like, what the hell? And then their friendship and partnership end. I think it's a little quick, and I would have liked a little bit of more time to be spent on it. But at the end of the day, it does very much make sense, and they hit the important story beats for them. But I'll get more into the story beats later on. Viktor goes back to Zaun and accidentally discovers that the hex core has given him abilities which enable him to heal, which he discovers because he heals a shimmer addict. At the same time, Ekko and Heimerdinger realize that the tree in the Firelight's hideout is actually corrupted, and so they go to find Jayce to try and get some answers. Mel then gets abducted by the Black Rose, who have been hunting down Ambessa, but since they can't get to her, they get to her daughter instead. Vi and Caitlyn's relationship begins to fracture due to Caitlyn's overwhelming hatred. She manages to convince Caitlyn to come with just her to hunt down Jinx. But this causes a whole new round of issues when Caitlyn nearly shoots Isha, who is using her body to protect Jinx. Vi stops Caitlyn, which allows both Isha and Jinx to escape. And Caitlyn leaves Vi in her fury. Under Ambessa's influence, Caitlyn induces martial law. Jayce, Ekko, and Hailee discover an anomaly known as a wild rune in the Hex Vault, and then subsequently get teleported away. Under Caitlyn's rule, the Piltover Noxian forces have invaded Zaun and have occupied Zaun, and Jinx is in full-blown hiding with Isha. Caitlyn is fully embroiled in Ambessa's manipulation and has even moved on romantically with Maddie. We will get to Maddie. I swear to God, we will get to her. But just calm down for a second. And obviously, Jayce, Ekko, and Hailee are missing. Ambessa is trying to do her own experiments with Hex Tech, but seeing as she does not have Jayce, Hailee, or Viktor and their brilliance, all of her experiments are failing. Jinx has unwillingly become the face of the Zaun resistance, but she will not embrace it, even though Sevika keeps trying to get her to. And Isha instead goes to a rally to inspire hope on Jinx's behalf, but ends up getting captured when the rally is raided. This pushes Jinx to joining up with Sevika in order to save everyone, but unbeknownst to them, Singe is fucking everything up because he's dropping little bits of blood for his experiment, Warwick, who wakes up upon the smell of Singe's blood and is now hunting him down. The creature attacks the prison that all of the prisoners are at, while Jinx and Sevika are rescuing them. And there's a pretty epic freaking fight scene between Jinx and Warwick, but also Warwick is the name of his name in the games. I think in the show they just call him the Beast, but sorry, so my bad. My nerd is coming out a little bit. But just as it seems like Jinx is about to lose, the creature pauses because he realizes that Jinx is powder. And Jinx comes to the realization that the beast is Vander, who did not die in season 1. Jinx finds Vi in the middle of a very deep, violent depression that is just made worse by being drunk 24/7. Vi ends up joining Jinx and Isha to track down Vander, who originally attacks them but then comes to recognize Vi as well. At the same time, Ambessa has employed Singed into her arsenal to also find Vander. And Mel, who is still trapped with the Black Rose, is being psychologically tortured because she believes that her brother is imprisoned with her, but through a series of puzzles and conversations and events she learns is just an illusion. And she also discovers that she has latent magical powers. Jayce emerges from the wild room and vows to destroy the hex core. Jinx, Vi, and Isha go to Viktor, hoping he can heal Vander. Ambessa, Caitlyn, and the Noxian army set camp outside of Viktor's sanctuary, and Vi and Caitlyn reunite, quickly ruining Ambessa and Singe's plans to get Vander from Viktor. Jayce confronts and kills Viktor, which causes a physical backlash on everyone that Viktor has helped, including Vander, who succumbs fully to being the beast and goes on an absolute rampage that results in Isha sacrificing herself to try and stop Vander. We reunite with Ekko, who is in a parallel universe with hailee. Hex tech was never invented here. Vi died on the day of the robbery. Milo, Clagger, and Benzo are still alive. Silco and Vander put aside their differences, and Powder never became Jinx. To return home, Ekko, Powder, and hailee all work together to create their own version of the Wild Rune. Ekko falls in love with Powder, but moves forward with the plan to return to his home world. hailee successfully assists in returning Ekko to their own timeline, but disappears himself. I don't think he's dead. I don't think so. I think because Yordles and Runeterra are like beings of pure magic. So I don't believe he's dead. I will not believe he's dead, especially with how little fanfare he got afterwards. So I'm just gonna assume that he's somewhere. He is somewhere, okay? We will see precious little hailee again. We learn that Jayce was also in a parallel universe, but instead of it being an alternative, better one of what we got, it is the aftermath of what can happen if Viktor gets his plan executed. And essentially it will annihilate the entire world. We reunite with the hooded figure who has saved Jayce as a child, and once again he saves Jayce by sending him to his own timeline, which is where he ended up blasting Viktor. Back in the present, Singed uses Vander's blood to heal Viktor. Vi awakens to discover that Jinx has turned herself in. Mel escapes her imprisonment with the realization of Ambessa sacrificing her own son to save her. Love that. Mel and Jayce are reunited, but a proxy Viktor wants access to Hexgate, attacks them so he can move forward with his glorious evolution. There is a great battle sequence and Viktor is defeated. Once defeated, the real Viktor makes a deal with the very arrogant Ambessa to move forward with her, to work with her. Jinx escapes from prison and traps Vi in prison, and when Vi is rescued by Caitlyn, the two of them succumb to their feelings and have a little bit of spicy time. I have to admit, that scene with Vi and Caitlyn, it made me so physically uncomfortable. I was watching it with my best friend, and we had our phones on, like, because he wasn't with me, like we were just watching it, but we were like on a call watching it, and we just went so silent, and then we didn't speak at all for like 10 minutes until another interesting scene popped up, and then we started talking again, because like that scene, it was entirely too long. I mean, it's fine, it was great, it was whatever, it wasn't that bad, but I just wasn't expecting it because Mel and Jayce had spicy time in the first season, and it was a beautiful scene. It was very well done, very interesting, because it just had different kind of focus. Vi and Caitlyn's spicy time was a little awkward. Noxian's attack and Piltover has struggles to defend itself, which is only worsened upon discovery that there's those who have turned on their fellow Piltovers, including Maddie. But the Zonites, led by Jinx and Ekko, there's a scene right before this where Jinx keeps trying to unalive herself and Ekko keeps stopping and rewinding time. Because, oh yeah, he can do that now. From the device that he made with Powder in the alternate universe. But Jinx keeps trying to unalive herself, and he keeps like rewinding time, trying to convince her like to not do it. And so it's such a sad scene, but I really liked it, and I like that they teamed up. But they joined the fight and they turned the tide. But Viktor has already entered the vault. Mel and Caitlyn fight with everything that they have to try and defeat Ambessa, who is a fucking terrifying soldier and beast. Oh my god, she is just brutal and ruthless. Caitlyn ends up getting her eye taken out of her skull in order to weaken Ambessa just enough so that way Mel can trap her and give her over to the Black Rose. The Black Rose severely weakens Ambessa, and Mel steps in and rescues what little remains of Ambessa. I know that like people fight against this and are saying like they don't understand how this could have happened all so quickly. I think the Black Rose severely, like my theory is they severely weakened Ambessa. So when Mel finally walked in and saved Ambessa from them, they had taken so much of Ambessa's soul, spirit, whatever. And so when they finally got back to where they were in Piltover, Ambessa was just too weak and too gravely injured and dies in Mel's arms. Viktor takes control of the wild rune and starts his final stages of his glorious evolution. But Ekko, with his own anomaly, manages to turn back time and stop everyone in the vicinity from being brainwashed and succumbing to the glorious evolution. Jayce then convinces Viktor to abandon his plan by revealing that the hooded figure who had been saving Jayce had been Viktor himself from other universes, timelines, or whatever, and it is revealed like no matter what, it's always going to destroy the world. Viktor comes back to himself and joins Jayce in destroying the wild rune, resulting in both of them disappearing. I don't know if they're dead. I don't think they are. I think we'll see them again. Maybe. I don't know. After Viktor and Jayce disappear, Vander turns absolutely feral because Vander is now just a husk of who he was. It's just the beast now. And Jinx sacrifices herself to save Vi. Don't even get me started on Vi having a breakdown and trying to save Vander. I get that it's frustrating, but I also 120% can understand it and relate to it. Vi has continuously lost her father over and over and over again, and he was lying on his back, spread eagle, just like he was in the very first act of the very first season. And she was trying everything to get him to wake back up. And so I can understand why she would do that again this time, because we have to remember these are all just kids. Like, I think Jinx is like 16. Vi is definitely a little bit older, like she's an adult, but she was trapped in prison for the majority of like half of her childhood. None of these kids are thinking rationally. They're all traumatized freaking kids who have no rational thought. Was it frustrating? Yes. But I do understand it. Do I think it could have been executed a little bit better? Yeah. But overall, I do understand why Vi didn't just run away from the unconscious Vander. But yes, so Jinx sacrifices herself to save Vi. After the battle, we later see that Sevika is on the council now representing Zon. Mel leaves for Noxus since she now represents the Murdarda family. Singed ends up being able to cure his daughter, so that's interesting. And Caitlyn and Vi try and figure out their future. Now, let's start with the critiques. The fast pacing, especially in Act 3, can feel like a lot. but considering the context that the war is raging, I think it makes sense that there's not a lot of time to sit there and process things. I think it's a very much an event happens, a reaction to that event happens, and during the reaction and another event happens. It's very fast paced, and with all the characters and with all the things happening, I honestly think it makes a lot of sense that there's not a lot of time to sit there and wonder what the hell is happening, because there's just too many moving parts in a war like this. I will say Act 2 was my absolute favorite. Ekko's storyline in particular shines. He emerges as such a true, genuine hero. He had literally everything, a perfect fucking life on a silver platter, and he gave it up to go save his world. I would have loved there to be more focus on Jayce and Viktor. 100%. I would have loved the show how it was so focused on Vi and Powder and how their actions and their emotions pushed the story forward so much in the first season. I would have loved that same kind of structural focus on Jayce and Viktor, since the story at the end of the day, it ends with them in a way. I think their relationship had so much potential to be the emotional heart and center of season 2, just as Jinx and Vi were for season 1. It really is strong, but I think that could have been explored even more, and it could have really elevated the season, I think. And we didn't get much about the Black Rose. If anything, we got a lot of questions and zero answers. But honestly, with how rich the lore is about Black Rose, I'm not that surprised. And that's probably just a setup for the next show, which is going to probably be in Noxus, which is where the Black Rose is. So I'm not that surprised that we didn't get to delve in that deeply to it, and that there was a lot more mystery and everything. Would I have loved more? Yes, but I know we'll get more in a future installment. Again, I agree, it was pretty fast paced. I didn't really mind it, because despite it being fast paced, everything still made sense. The characters' stories, the where they ended up, where their journeys, even if it was faster, even if it was a journey that should have been this long and it ended up being this long, the destination still made sense. Every character ending still made sense. By the way, Jinx is not dead, because the way that Caitlyn was studying the blueprints and was looking at the chutes and everything, and then there's like that, and when the explosion of Vander and Jinx happened, there's a little pink line. We know that Jinx was reconstructed with Shimmer, so she is 10 times faster and stronger than the normal person now. So she definitely lunged, and that little balloon thing that was flying away, I know that there's an official word, I don't know, but she mentioned it specifically in the first season, in the first episode, that she was going to ride those one day. And then the fact that the show ended with that, she's definitely on it, definitely an adventure. She ended the cycle of violence and abuse and everything by reinventing herself and finding a new journey. Definitely, she's definitely not dead. But anyways, but I think everything, it was fast paced, but I think one of the strong points of this show is that it still made sense. The story still made sense. Was it a little overwhelming at times with all the things happening? Yes, but still, the fact that everyone's critiquing just how fast it was, but not critiquing how the stories ended for the characters, speaks volumes for how well written it was, and for the fact that the show creators were trying something new. They were trying different pacing, trying a different story structure, and it didn't work out that well. And they have said in interviews that they heard our critiques and they will take them into account and work on different things, different ways of storytelling in the future. But I admire the fact that they tried something new, and they also listened to the fact that the fans said it wasn't their favorite thing, but they still put the character stories first, even though they were trying something new, and they didn't try and outsmart the audience. They didn't try and outsmart the fans. They were just telling a good story. And so despite the negatives, the positives are that the characters' journeys and stories still made 100% sense, and it was still true to who they were as characters, and I love that. I love that so much, and it makes me love this show even more. Okay, one of the other best things about this show were the fight scenes. Oh my god. They were so well done, so well choreographed, so well paced, so beautifully animated. The fight scenes are just so rich, and I love them. And there's so many like little Easter eggs it tells so much about each character and their strengths and their weaknesses. They showed Jinx having her pink eyes and being faster than normal. They don't just have someone saying it. They show Caitlyn and Mel agreeing on this plan silently and non-verbally and then executing it. They don't have to explain. They don't hold your hand or walk you through it. They just show you and they don't tell you. And that's always been my favorite thing about Arcane. They show, they don't tell, and like so many other shows who tell and don't show. Arcane is a master at showing, and I hope that other shows follow suit, and I hope that they keep this with future installments to the world. Arcane remains one of the best shows to come out in years, animated or otherwise. It's a near perfect masterpiece where everyone genuinely cared about the story, the characters, and the journey. And I'm so excited to see what else they come up with for this world. What do you think of season 2? Do you agree or disagree with me? If you're familiar with Runeterra, which region or characters do you think that they're going to explore next? Drop your thoughts below. I would love to talk about the show some more. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe. Until next time, bye.